Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today, I'm speaking with Tom Paladino. He is a scalar light researcher and humanitarian whose mission is to bring the healing power of scalar light technology to the world to improve everybody's quantum health. And obviously, this is a really big topic. This might be new to a lot of people listening. So we'll try and start with the basics. Tom, my goal here is to keep it accessible for those who don't know what we're talking about, but also comprehensive for anybody who might be skeptical or wondering what this is all about. So let's start at the beginning. Who are you? How did you get into this field of study? And what motivates you?
Robert, thank you for the interview. Um, I'm a scalar light researcher. My name's Tom Paladino. What was the impetus? What was the drive behind this? I wanted to improve the human condition. Why am I doing this? This technology, I believe, will, will change the world. This is a technology that will be accessible to everybody and a technology that will allow us to solve problems. We have many problems in this world. If I'm going to be a successful researcher and present my work to a large audience, to the world for that matter, I need to show the benefits. I need to solve problems. So during the next hour, we will show you how we're going to solve many problems.
So where did this all start for you? What was the spark that kind of ignited the curiosity about scalar energy, and how did you even come across it in the first place?
When I was a youngster, I read about the great man, Nikola Tesla, the scientist Nikola Tesla. I always wanted to follow up with his work, and I'm doing that now. Nikola Tesla, in my estimation, is the first man who harnessed scalar energy. He proved not only that scalar energy exists, but that it could be harnessed and could be used to solve problems, could be used to benefit mankind. So I want to follow up on the work of Nikola Tesla, and I want to indeed solve problems, show society that this can improve our welfare.
I think Tesla is a good place to start for a lot of people, if for no other reason than the simple fact that his name has been popularized in modern culture over the past several years. So it's something that people can recognize, but they might not know exactly what he did or, many details about his work. And from my understanding, Tesla was is considered in mainstream science to be a controversial figure. What was controversial about his work?
What was controversial about his work was not his early career as an AC electrician. He was an electrical engineer, a brilliant engineer. He gave us AC electricity. What's controversial is the latter part of his career that he started working with scalar energy. Later in life, Tesla realized that there was free energy from the sun and the stars. And not of his doing, but it really was a smear campaign against him. The powers that be do not want the general populace to realize that scalar energy is free energy. So Tesla, as brilliant as he was never able to overcome that stigma that was placed upon him. It was unjustified, but Tesla was about to give the world free, clean energy.
So at this point, people are probably wondering, what is scalar energy exactly?
It's the energy of the sun and the stars. When we're speaking about scalar energy, it originates from the sun and the stars. So immediately people should have the notion that this is free. It's clean energy. It's not from a power plant. It's not from a wind farm. You don't dig it up as coal. You don't drill for it. It's the free energy of the sun and the stars. And this is what Tesla wanted to capture and then rebroadcast. So that's where I'm going with my research. I am working with free energy devices. I'm in my laboratory. Behind me is a scalar energy instrument. It's free energy. In other words, this energy is super abundant from the sun and the stars, and it does not require an infrastructure to work with it. You do not need satellites or wires or any type of transformer. You simply access that dimension. So it's free energy with a free infrastructure.
So from what I understand about Tesla's work is that something that he was working on was transporting electricity over distances without any wires. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is this kind of the same concept, but on a different scale?
This is the same concept, but instead of sending energy to, say, a factory or an office, I send energy to a person's energy field, a force field. I don't work with, if you will, power generation. I work with quantum health, in which I can take a photograph of a person, locate their energy field, and send energy field by way of their photograph.
I want to dig into that, but before I do, just to bounce back to a little bit more of the physics of where the scalar energy comes from, because you said that it's produced by the sun and the stars, but is this something that is created by the sun? Is it something that is just harnessed by the sun and distributed throughout the universe? What's the origin of the energy precisely?
The origin is God. That's a great question. How could you have energy from all the sun, all of the stars in the universe? How's that possible? God has to create this energy. So I'm saying that this is a divine energy. It's the energy that animates the stars, the sun included, of our solar system. And this is what gives light energy to the universe. Hence, this is an infinite source of energy. If the stars are powered by scalar energy, then if we can tap into that infinite source, we'll never run out of energy. Then there's no scarcity. There's no, if you will, uh, problem with sourcing for energy anymore. That's what Tesla wanted to do. He wanted infinite energy from the stars.
And when you say that it's created by God, what's your definition of God? Are you coming at it from like a biblical sense, like a religious
Yes,
perspective, or is it more like this is just the universe, unfolding upon itself? How do you define that?
I define God as the supreme being who was never created. If you look at the universe, logically, you have to say everything was created. You have to go back. You have to keep saying, well, what created that? What brought that event about? So there's a cause and effect to everything. With God, there's no cause. He's uncreated. So I'm speaking about the uncreated supreme being who creates everything, God.
So, do you subscribe to the Big Bang theory of the universe that seems to be prevalent in modern physics?
Well, let me make this quick observation. Many people think the universe began as a bang or an explosion, and that from that dispersion of matter and light, the universe was created. Now, if that's an accurate description, I'll be able to debunk that. That's nonsense. I never saw anybody create a building or an office building or a hospital by exploding something. So I believe scalar energy is the cause of creation. And it's not an explosion. It's simply an appointment of divine intelligence. So with scalar energy, nothing explodes. This is a safe energy. There's no explosion. So I don't believe in that notion of Big Bang.
So I want to talk about the devices that you've created to harness this energy because it seems like something that has such mysterious origins and qualities about it would be difficult to actually manufacture or distribute with the mechanical devices that we have at our disposal. So what did you do? What's your secret without giving away all of your secrets to us because I know you don't aren't able to do that. But what was the fundamental idea behind making a machine that could produce this?
God gave me the wisdom, and I'm working with a brilliant engineer right now. But prior to that, the key is a man by the name of Galen Hieronymus, who I consider my predecessor, invented this instrument. This, I'm going to point to it. This instrument behind me is a scalar energy instrument. You'll notice there's no moving parts, but it acts like a star. If I were to hold up a light bulb close to the instrument, it would illuminate the light bulb.
Still in the
That
packaging and everything.
that's correct. That is, if you will, a miniature star. Here's this might be a little bit more discernible. It's red. So that is a free energy instrument. That's a scalar energy instrument. Dr. Hieronymus was the initial inventor. I am not the initial inventor. I met with this family, the Hieronymus family, and I learned. I had an understudy with them. It was invaluable. And I learned from the master, Galen Hieronymus, how to work with these instruments, how to engineer these instruments through his family. So with that in mind, that was my head start. That was my opportunity, my golden opportunity, and I seized upon it. And to this day, I'm quite surprised that very few people have ventured along this path. But this is an uncharted science, yes. It's new, it's groundbreaking, but it really demands a more serious inquiry from the world. Without equivocation, I'm telling your audience, scalar energy someday, this technology will power our homes. It is safe, it is clean, the energy's from the stars, there's no scarcity. This is the model that we want. This will change the social order.
I have so many questions now. First of all, can you tell me what's happening with the light bulb when you put
Yeah.
it close to the machine? What are the physics behind it? What's going on in the light bulb that makes it glow at a distance?
Okay, so there's a gas, and it's a fluorescent too. And when I hold this away from the instrument, it's not animated. But when I hold this close to the instrument, there's so much energy, it will animate, it will illuminate by way of exciting the gas. So
So
what
it's
am I trying? Go ahead.
essentially a replacement for the electric current that would be coursing
Yes,
through it when it's plugged in.
yes. Now, if I can do that with one light bulb, eventually I can do that with 1,000,000 light bulbs. And the key to my work is, again, it's free energy, but the infrastructure is free. So eventually I should be able to take this energy and broadcast it around the world without the need of satellites, cell phone towers, conduit, step down transformers, etc., etc.
And
So
you,
it's
I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
it's free energy with the free infrastructure. Now consider the world spends $10 trillion a year on energy distribution and creation. $10 trillion. I'm saying this paradigm will present free, relatively inexpensive energy without the need of an infrastructure.
It doesn't take much imagination to, realize why, the so-called powers that be would not want something like this to become widespread. But I'm curious about, you say that there is no harmful implications for this whatsoever.
Right?
This does not affect human biology in any
Correct.
way. Is it something that just it's on a completely other frequency or level that it doesn't interact with us in any harmful way?
Exactly. It's non-physical. This energy is intelligence. I call it divine intelligence, the creative strength of God, the divine intelligence of God. Now, with that statement, not an electron or a neutron is involved. It's massless, non-physical. On account of the fact that it is non-physical, it cannot produce a biological reaction, a chemical reaction. This is non-physical, non-chemical action. What is it? It's intelligence. I work at the informational level. I don't work at the lower level of chemical response, of chemical action.
Yet it does obviously have an influence on chemicals and on physical matter because, otherwise the light bulb wouldn't be glowing, right?
Right. That's correct. But I'm saying that that light bulb is animated by non-physical energy, not by physical energy. If you look at gas or oil or nuclear, that all involves some type of chemical exchange, some type of chemical reaction. So this is the new physics of non-physical action in which we can act upon anything without a chemical response. Hence, there's no chemical consequence, such as pollution.
Okay. So many things are firing off in my brain. I'm just trying to decide which direction to take this in. So I've heard of others speaking about similar sounding things. Like free energy is a term that I've heard used by multiple people. Some call it 0 point energy. Are you speaking about the same thing?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a synonymous term. 0 point energy. Why do people call it that? Well, some people believe that no matter where you are in the universe, there is some type of action. Even at absolute zero, there's still some type of activity, action. It's probably scalar energy. And that's probably where they came up with the term 0 point energy. Even if you're at absolute zero, which would be no molecular excitement whatsoever or agitation, you still have some type of energy. Now, if that describes 0 point energy, then so be it. That's scalar energy. Now, consider what I said previously. This energy is from the sun, the stars. There's trillions upon trillions of stars. I think the universe is infinite. So when you're broadcasting from trillions of stars, the universe is flooded with scalar energy, which is non-physical, massless. And this is why we have a universe that does not pollute. If you've ever asked yourself, if the universe was an electromagnetic event, then there would be pollution throughout the universe. And a lot of people say, well, there's thermonuclear reactions inside every star. Well, if that's the case, then there would be pollution. There would be radioactivity throughout the universe. That's not the case. Our universe is not polluted. Our universe is not a sea of radioactivity. Our universe is a sea of non-physical energy without any pollution, which now calls to mind that there's two energies. And this is the intellectual magnificence of Tesla. He started off with electromagnetic energy. He ended his career with the second energy, scalar energy. There's two energies, and hence there's two explanations for events in the universe.
I feel like this is tapping into the, and we'll get into this more when we talk about like the healing implications of this, but the energy sciences that people have delved into with relation to like ancient practices and energy healing from ancient cultures and stuff like this, things that have been embraced by humans for thousands of years but kind of forgotten in modern times, that we've embraced that, the electromagnetic sciences. What is that really what this is, tapping back into those roots, those ancient traditions that seem to embrace these ideas more than we do now?
Yeah, synonymous terms for scalar light are chi, prana, sun energy, pyramid energy, Ra, Ra. Some people call it Om, OM. Many civilizations realized that there was a primal force, probably scalar energy. And many civilizations always realized that that was the source of all activity, the source of life. They're correct. Energy is fundamental. Energy takes us back to the creation of the universe. Nothing else is fundamental. So if you want to have a fundamental understanding of the universe, you better look at the fundament that drives it, which is scalar energy.
So where did we lose the thread along the way in the
Yeah,
development of society? Like there
yeah,
seems to be a point where we deviated from that.
you're right. You're absolutely right. That's brilliant of you. And I think that had a lot to do with the lobbyists, the robber, the bankers, the robber barons, and the media that was conditioned to only mention electromagnetic activity. There have been scientists who developed and demonstrated free energy, scalar energy instruments. Why isn't this headline news? Because there's a concerted conspiracy against this. Why would those in power, the elite, want us, the populace, to realize that there are free energy instruments?
On
No,
that
they don't.
note, what I found fascinating as I was researching for this interview is that one of the first things you'll come across if you Google scalar energy is a declassified CIA.gov doc, which is titled Verbal Request for Summary Statement on Scalar Waves, which describes precisely what their definition of scalar waves are in 3 pages. It's not very detailed, but it's there. And it reminds me of other things that I've come across on the CIA website concerning things like remote viewing and other practices that people would regard as like so out there and crazy, but they're there on the government website, meaning to me, they must have been worthy of inquiry for these very important people to invest time in. What do you think the chances are that we have invested considerable energy into developing these technologies, but it's just not been revealed to the public?
I think that's the case. Nikola Tesla achieved free energy over 100 years ago. He demonstrated that in 1899 at an installation in Colorado Springs. Later, at the turn of the century, he was demonstrating free energy in Long Island, New York, and he was not bashful about his work. I'm not bashful about my work. So the powers that be realize that this is true. Now, consider what I'm saying. If we bring this new technology into the fore, it will make obsolete much of the technology that's in vogue, that's in practice in the military industrial complex. Free energy will make obsolete many inventions, will make obsolete many technologies.
What are some of the other implications that this could have outside of just replacing, oil or nuclear power, et cetera?
There's a great Russian scientist, Viktor Grebenikov, who used scalar energy to overcome gravity. Now, scalar energy is the first principle of everything, including that of gravity. And when you can control scalar energy, you can control gravity. And this man, Grebenikov, developed an anti-gravity platform in which he could move about freely without experiencing any G forces. So in that case, Grebenikov demonstrated the superior way of transportation, an anti-gravity platform.
This reminds me of, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the story of Bob Lazar, who has, he actually came out in interviews and he wrote a book, which I read. I've been fascinated with this story. Apparently, he worked in or around Area 51 in the 1980s and describes the devices that were used to create anti-gravity aircraft, basically. And it sounds like it shares a lot in common with
Yeah,
these scalar waves.
yeah. There's suppressed technology. For the past century, there has been suppressed technology. Tesla was ready to give the world scalar energy, what he called radiant energy. And to prove that there were two careers, two paths that Tesla followed, later in his life, he was not using the term electromagnetic, he was using the term radiant. And later in his life, he was never using wires. He was working with free energy devices. And those devices notably did not have any moving parts. So where was the kinetic energy coming from? Well, as Tesla described it, the universe is awash with kinetic energy. You don't need a motor. All you need is to access the motor of the universe, which are the stars.
So let's get into some of the things that you're able to do with this. You mentioned taking somebody's photograph and placing it within the field of the machine, and then effects happen. Can you walk me through that?
Yeah, okay. When I work with people, I work exclusively by way of their photograph. I'll explain your question in a minute. So I'm working with force fields. Now, to be clear, all of my work is non-physical because scalar energy is non-physical. I never work with a physical person. I work with the energy field on a photograph. And I place a person's photograph inside the scalar energy atmosphere. Now, in so doing, my photograph is experiencing that type of energy. So what am I saying? As long as my photograph is in this atmosphere, that's what my force field is experiencing, a download of scalar energy, which is unique. It is not that of electricity or magnetism. And what I've experienced is this type of energy can detect a disease signature and negate disease that's been identified through the information field. Let me repeat that. My photograph carries my soul, mind, and body. My disease signatures are also imprinted, embedded on a photograph. This instrument can detect a disease signature in the information field and negate it, nullify it.
Does this work with objects other than photographs? What is it something specific to the image of a person? What is
Yep.
it? What is it that is picked up, and what else could you apply this to, if not somebody's photo?
Yeah. My predecessor was working with plants in which he could place a plant inside a scalar energy atmosphere, but never a person because the instruments are too small for a person or an animal. So yes, you can work with physical reality, but you're always accessing the information field, which is non-physical. So to be clear, a person or an animal or even an object still has an energy field. And that's why the easiest way to go about this is with a photograph of a person or a photograph of 100 people or a photograph of a forest of trees. Instead of bringing 1,000 trees into my laboratory, why not just take a photograph of those trees and treat their force field, their energy field?
I
That's the
guess what
easy
I'm
way.
thinking, what I'm thinking now is like, is it something about the photo itself? Like, would it work the same way if you had somebody's photo on a cell phone and put that in the energy field?
Yes,
Would that would be the same equivalent?
you're right. A photograph on a cell phone would also work. Why? It still represents that person. Whether it's a photograph that's been printed on a piece of paper, or if I would take this computer and place it inside the instrument, your image is in the computer right now. And your image would serve as a means of identifying your force field. Now, to be very clear, again, I am only working with the force field, not the biological field. So now we can prove that people have a spirit or a force field or an energy field because all of my work is non physical. So when I work with a person through their photograph, it's their aura or their spirit that I pick up.
Right. I think I grasp that. And what I'm trying to understand is like the limitations of this. So like if I was to let's say put my shirt into the force field and it's something that was connected to me that maybe carries an energy signature, would that have some sort of effect too?
Yeah, probably. And here's why. If let's say you had a t-shirt and you perspired, and that t-shirt now carries your perspiration. It carries part of you, what we consider part of your cell, part of your makeup. And I took a photograph of that t-shirt. That t-shirt still incorporates your sweat, which is you, your perspiration. And I could probably work with your aura, work with your force field by way of your t-shirt. Very good point.
I think this is probably the part that most people will find difficult to grasp.
Yeah.
It just seems so outside of what we would conventionally, regard as a legitimate healing practice for better or for worse. That's just the way things seem to be right now. What would you say to somebody who's skeptical of this and the way that it
Yeah.
works?
And I don't blame you for being skeptical, but keep in mind this is not Newtonian physics. This is the new branch of quantum physics, where everything, all action is non-physical. Now, if you're looking for a mechanistic viewpoint, you'll find that with electromagnetic energy, in which you can explain physical phenomena. This is non-physical. It's only information. It's the mind of God, or what some people call consciousness. Now, can you measure consciousness? No. Have we ever been able to photograph consciousness? No. That's what I'm working with. Consciousness, divine intelligence, which is of a higher order. Now, I give this analogy many times, and I think this is pertinent for our discussion. If you're an architect, you have architectural plans, right? And before you build something, here's some architectural plans. Before you build something, you have plans, intelligence. This is the consciousness of a building. This is the intelligence of a building, architectural plans. And after you have those architectural plans, then you start building. What is scalar energy? It's the architectural plans of the universe. Before you build a physical universe, you have intelligence, divine intelligence.
That makes sense. And something that I've often considered is the fact that, and this is something that literally anybody can grasp, whether you're into this type of stuff or not, anything that a human being has built or created started as an idea in their head first. So we could say without a doubt that everything we have ever made was originated by thought and by extension consciousness.
Thank you. And what is thought and consciousness? Scalar energy. Very good. What is a thought? It transcends time and space and it's non-physical. What is scalar energy? It transcends time and space and it's non-physical. Our thoughts are scalar waves. Our emotions are scalar waves. They have to be. You cannot describe a thought or emotion by way of electromagnetic activity. It is not. What is thinking? What is feeling? Consciousness, divine intelligence.
This also brings to mind some, energy healing practices. I know some people who practice Reiki and stuff like that, aligning the chakras and the balancing of energy and things like that. So that's done from one person to another. How is that different from using this device?
It's probably using the same principle in many cases. For instance, you've heard of people with healing hands.
Hmm?
What's the energy that's coming from their hands? It's non-physical energy. It's scalar energy. This is why some people have the gift of laying hands upon you and healing you. Others have the gift of prayer. What's a prayer? It's an expression. It's a non-physical expression of scalar energy. So healing hands, prayer, intention, all of those are non-physical manifestations. Now, this gives credence to the world of spirit or the world of information, the world of intelligence. And those of you who are architects, you'll appreciate this. Before you build anything, you have architectural plans. That only stands to reason. And before you start to write a theme or some type of a short novel, you have a theme. You deduce. You have some type of a creativity. If you're an artist and you start off with a blank piece of paper, okay, you have to have some type of a flatus, some type of instruction, some type of divine intelligence to allow you to paint from nothing. That's what scalar energy is. So with that in mind, everybody listening to this discussion today is a scalar energy expert. Everybody in this audience is a master of scalar energy because all of you think and all of you feel and all of you have written a paragraph or two, composed a poem. Some of you are artists, you can draw. Some of you are architects and you can draw from scratch a building, so to speak, from ground zero. Everybody's a scalar energy expert, and you have to be because intelligence action starts at the intellectual level, not at the physical level. Sadly, modern day man wants to put it the other way around. No, everything starts with intelligence, divine intelligence, instructions, and therefrom comes the physical manifestation.
Do you feel like the tide is shifting a little bit in regards to modern man and our technology? Because at least from my perspective, I see a lot of people embracing the more holistic approaches to life and um, particularly, like in the Eastern medicines and things like that, people are getting back to those roots and acknowledging them as legitimate. And that's why it surprises me a little bit that you say people have not shown any interest in your technology or embraced it in any way. I'm not sure if you've heard of Joe Dispenza, but he's somebody who has become incredibly popular, maybe the most popular person within this space of being able to heal yourself of ailments through your own
Yes.
thoughts. And you know that it has resonated with millions of people. Like you can see it on he's on all of the biggest podcasts out there. And so clearly there's something that's clicking with people. So, why do you think that this when you're introducing like machinery into the equation, does it become a little bit less appealing to people because it's not, coming from our body?
Maybe, but not sure what Joe Dispenza says is correct. That consciousness, the way we think, is the world that we dictate. Now, for instance, there was a scientist, Dr. Emoto. He was working with water, in which our thoughts could be reflected into water, impressed upon water, and we would see ultimately under the microscope beautiful geometric patterns imparted from our thoughts into the water, which is consciousness. So is it real? Yeah. Dr. Emoto proved that with water samples. Do we prove that every day? Of course we do. Some people go to the gym and they psych themselves up. What is that? They're sending scalar waves, their mind and their feelings to have a good workout. Some people say, I'm going to invent something or I'm going to start a business. It all starts with a thought. So, yes, this is mind over matter. Yes, this concept resonates. It's true. It has to be true. All physical action is the end of the caboose. It's the caboose. It's the end of the train. Before that is the locomotive, which is intelligence.
So we're only seeing the residue of all of the things that have kind of generated the action that we witness in our lives. We're just seeing the end product, but it's the rest of it is so outside of our field of vision. I guess we always hear this from people that we as humans are only capable of seeing the tiniest fraction of uh, energy and matter that exists in the universe. And so at least to me, that's why like I give credence to all of these theories and ideas, because what do we know ultimately with what we're able to see with our eyes? There's so much else out there.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Look at the universe. You're looking through a telescope. You realize that the stars represent, I'm just going to throw this out, 0.0001% of the physical matter in the universe. The remaining 99.999% is space, open space, non-physical space. Why would God design a universe like that? Because scalar energy, the information of the universe, is 99.999% what we should be looking at. The end product, a planet, a moon, an asteroid, is the 0.00001% of creation. So let's just imitate God. Why not concentrate on the intelligence, which is 99.999% of the universe? Why concentrate on the physical matter, which is only 0.0001% of the universe?
I guess that's because it's what is the easiest for us to do,
Yes, you're
right?
right. That's our default. That's our default mechanism. Yes, you're right.
And we've been conditioned to do that. And that, the way that the economies work with, based on money and transaction of goods and things like that, it just, I guess, has become natural for society to revolve around those practices, for better or for worse, probably for worse, right?
Yeah. And we're starting to learn. And I don't mean any of this tongue in cheek. I'm not being condescending. It's a learning experience. But consider that motif. Why did God design the universe with stars giving off all the light? All of the light, all of the energy comes from the stars. And why is it that the stars only have to comprise out of the space of the universe, you know, a minuscule amount? What's the point? Why do we have empty space? That's the intelligence.
How has the work that you've been doing over the decades changed the way that you look at the world and reality?
The older I get, the more I realize cause and effect really has a lot to do with your attitude, your thoughts, and the people you associate with. Because it's either your impetus or the collective impetus of your family or your friends or your society or your church or your corporation. And ultimately, the way you think, the way you act is the marriage you have, it's the relationship you have, it's the business structure you have. In my life, I surround myself with good people. Every once in a while, a person that I consider to be nefarious comes along, and I say no. I get rid of them because they're not interested on my back. They're not interested in Tom Paladino. If I surround myself with good people, then we all have this common objective to improve the world condition. It's so much easier when we cooperate, when we all work together in harmony. So if there's anything that becomes more and more uh, clear to me with the passage of time, it's the way we think, our projections, our desires. because ultimately that's what we inherit. Whatever we think about is what we manifest. Our desires are what we manifest. When you meet a happy person, this is why they're happy and the people around them are happy. That's their projection. It's kind of obvious. Just look at nature, look at life. Look compare a happy person to a person who's forlorn or disconsolate. There's a gigantic difference. And then look at their work outlook. Look at their productivity.
It's obvious to somebody who's looking at it objectively, and to somebody who's dealing with some sort of trauma or problems in their life. You're dealing with this blanket of illusion that is kind of like shading everything that you look at, right? And that's the challenge. It's to get past that, to get beyond that. And I think that's what meditation is about, and getting beyond yourself and your emotions and everything. What I'm wondering is there an element of belief in your work? Like if somebody's photo is in the presence of the scalar light, does believing in an effect have any impact on what happens?
Yes, it augments the process, but can't nullify the process. And the reason I say that scalar energy is everywhere, and you cannot negate the stars. You cannot negate the activity of the stars. Now, if you want to work hand in hand with the stars, okay, great. That will augment the healing. I perform this experiment every once in a while in which showing that scalar energy cannot be negated. I don't think any physical object, not that I've ever seen, can negate it. If I hold up a wooden chopping board to the instrument, the
Still lights
light
up.
bulb, the light bulb still illuminates. So what is this? This is the omnipresence. Scalar energy is the Om of everything. It's the creative strength of God. It's everywhere. Now, if this is really omnipresent, then it shows how important this is. It's everywhere, so it factors into everything. No, I understand there's a specific chemical reaction, and you have to have two chemicals or three chemicals, and that's a local event. But if scalar energy is omnipresent, then everything in the universe is affected by this energy, which is omnipresent.
Even mainstream physics now is getting a bit bizarre, with quantum physics being introduced, and things like quantum entanglement becoming mainstream, well-known concepts that most people with even a mild interest in physics will know what that is. And that's kind of shaking things up in its own way, where it's not really just the conventional physics that we've known, like the ones and zeros, but like in the quantum realm, it's opening up people's minds and really making them think in different ways. Do you think that because of that, we're on a path where this type of technology will be easier to embrace in the near future?
Yeah. Yes, the answer to your question, yes. Many religious teachers are teaching this, and they should. It's prayer. This is how important prayer is. Everybody should pray every day, which is a consciousness, or you're broadcasting divine intelligence. And it does have an influence on yourself, on your family, on society. So positive thinking. You've heard many health coaches or many business coaches say, think positive, have positive thoughts, and have goals. Well, what's a goal? A goal is a scalar energy intention. That's why it works. Yeah, of course, you have to work for it. There's deduction behind it, and there's an expenditure of resources many times. But nonetheless, it's a, if you will, that driving force. It's the instructions that drive a business model.
I'm aware of some of the latest research that you're doing on scalar light plasma tubes, which can be uh, used to treat or cure cancer.
Yeah,
And I'm very interested in that. Many people
yeah.
don't know this about me, but I lost my father to cancer when I was about 13. And so it's something that I've always really been passionate about and interested in. Um, in the 20 years since then, I'm not sure how much progress we've made with it, but this sounds promising, so I'd like to know about it.
Okay, I'm going to hold up a photograph of an instrument. This is an instrument created by Antoine Priory. He's deceased. Back in the 50s and 60s, he experimented with this plasma tube, in which he would place animals and people below the plasma tube. And back in the 50s and 60s, Priori was curing people of cancer. Now, I don't have this gigantic instrument in my laboratory. I have this instrument behind me, but I'm trying to duplicate the scalar wave that I assume Priori achieved. Now, what am I getting at? Well, this is a photograph of a scalar wave. And it's my contention that this instrument that Antoine Priori had, produced that scalar wave. So if I positional now. So if the instrument would send energy, scalar energy into a person, an animal or a plant, or a person, notably a person, that person would no longer have cancer, including tumors. So what do I want to do? I want to set up a scalar energy instrument that I am broadcasting that scalar wave. And in so doing, if I can do that and achieve that, then I will be able to correct the spiral of energy, which is DNA. Look closely. A scalar wave is a double helix. DNA is a double helix. A scalar wave has a major and a minor groove. DNA has a major groove and a minor groove. It's always been my contention that a scalar wave creates and maintains DNA. If my theory is correct, then I can take the perfect information of scalar energy, download it into DNA, and arrive at a perfect structure of DNA. If I can perfect DNA, then we'll see what happens with people with cancer and tumors.
That sounds fascinating.
I can only hope that it does work. I am now working with that thought in mind. And I actually have been working with probably 100, 200 people in the past 3 or 4 months who have cancer. And the people are now starting to report to me. Now, this is a new process. I'm only into it now for about 3.5 months. And the people who have reported to me are telling me that they feel better. The people are now reporting that they're in remission. Notably, I worked with a dog 2 months ago that had a tumor. And now the tumor has disappeared. There's no more tumor. And the reason I pinpoint that is a dog is not aware that it's being treated with scalar energy. The photograph that was sent to us is being accessed by this instrument, and the dog did not realize that the owner has sent me a photograph. I'm not being facetious. So there's no placebo effect with a dog that no longer has a tumor.
That's an interesting point, because an animal can't get down on themselves, get depressed, make the situation worse by feeling negative emotions or anything like that. So
Yeah.
it seems like an ideal test subject.
Yeah. Now you see the importance of this divine intelligence. If this intelligence, if that scalar wave is being broadcast by every star, then that's the seat of wisdom. That's the all-seeing eye. And to capture that energy and redirect it, then we have perfection in the all-seeing eye. And to redirect it and reapply it, we have perfection in society, including perfection in DNA.
Talk to me about some of the other health benefits that people can experience with this.
The recent advances that occurred March of this year, March of 2024, people tell me that they're no longer suffering from autoimmune symptoms. Some people have told me that they no longer have pain from rheumatoid arthritis. Others have told me that they no longer have back pain. So it seems that I have been able to access this corrective intelligence, this divine intelligence, to a greater magnitude than I was previously for the past 30 years. And that this increase of energy, this more profound, if you will, placement of energy by way of scalar energy, is now reducing inflammation, is reducing the symptoms of many disease. Now, this has never been done before. My work, again, is groundbreaking. Nobody's ever duplicated my work. I cannot prove my work with people because I don't work with people. And this is not a play on words. I cannot prove my work with people. I can prove my work in my laboratory. When I work with a photograph, I can prove that a disease signature exists and I can nullify a disease signature on the photograph. That's the only proof I can make. That's the only claim I will make. Logically, I never work with a human being in my life. So I have to rely upon the testimony of people. And that's the only way I can prove or disprove that this is having any advantageous effect. So to be clear to your audience, I have no peers. There's no peer-reviewed paper. Nobody's ever duplicated my results. Working through a photograph is not medical science, it's quantum science. It's a new branch of physics. And nobody's been able to prove or disprove my work because nobody has this type of instrumentation.
I can imagine that your photo must have spent a considerable amount of time within the field. How do you feel?
I
You
feel
must be
great.
the healthiest person in the world.
Thank you. I'm 64 years of age and I have no health complications. I don't take one pharmaceutical product. I don't need surgery. I'm healthy, soul, mind, and body. And I'm a testimony to this that, you know, at age 64, I'm vibrant.
I know you've also worked on some humanitarian efforts using this technology. Can you tell me about those?
Yes. We work with uh, livestock around the world. We've been working with goats in Tanzania in particular. The goats are very healthy. And because of that, the goats multiply quickly. And we've been working with a group of farmers in Tanzania in which we donate goats and then we treat the goats by way of their photograph. And the goats are flourishing. Now imagine what that means, especially to an impoverished community, as many communities are in Africa, that you can provide them with support for their livestock, so their livestock is healthy, so the production, the output of the livestock is increased. We've also worked with farmers. With some of them have fruit orchards, and we've been able to eradicate fungi in the fruit trees. Once again, serving to increase the yield of fruit orchards. So there's millions of applications. Millions.
Sounds like a potential replacement for pesticides, which are seem to be a problem in today's agriculture.
Yeah.
What other applications? You mentioned that this would change everything basically. What other applications could you imagine this being used for on a large scale?
There was a theorist and an inventor, Thomas Morey, and he was able to develop a scalar energy radio in which he was able to pick up a conversation miles away with great clarity without the need of satellites. Why? The ether is your satellite. So imagine this new transportation method of anti-gravity and this new means of telecommunications in which you don't need satellites or substations, you don't need speakers or woofers, etc. All you need is to access the ether and you can deliver speech or you can hear speech miles away without the need of any type of infrastructure whatsoever.
And probably not even, Wi-Fi or EMFs or any of those things that we have an abundance of.
Yeah. There's no drop signal in the scalar energy force field because scalar energy is perfect. There's no entropy. See, the problem with conversing with, if you will, communicating by way of electromagnetic energy, it has its downfalls. There's entropy. You can lose the signal. Scalar energy, you never lose a signal. It's perfect. There is no entropy. So you will never have a drop signal in a scalar energy environment.
What is it going to take to bring this to the next level?
People like you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
People like you. I could show test results all day long, but until people tell me, Tom, I feel better, and I'm going to tell my neighbor, then it will go nowhere. I have to take it from theory to practice. How do I do that? I want people to get involved. Otherwise, I'll be stuck in my laboratory until the day I die.
So what is your ultimate vision for the future with this technology?
Immediately, I'd like to start working with 1 billion people a year by way of their photograph. If I can work with 1 billion people a year, then that will give us the proof. If a billion people or many of that number come forth and say, I feel better, something happened, there's been a shift in my health. Well, even only a million people need to testify to that, and then it will spread. But we need this to be a grassroots movement. I believe in grassroots movement. I believe in the people. I trust the people. There's some entities out there that I do not trust. So if I keep it with the people, this should grow.
Tom, this has been a fascinating conversation. I can't thank you enough for your time. Is there anything that you want to share with the audience before we wrap it up?
Yes, let's be positive. There are many problems in this world, but as I stated initially, scalar energy will solve many of those problems. Help me bring this technology into the mainstream. Help me make this technology into the fabric of life, and we will solve problems, and we will be happier, and we will liberate mankind with this technology. I need your help.
I'm all for it. I wish you the best of luck. Continue with your research. It sounds great, and I'm so happy to speak to you.